Hi, I'm John Dennis, the mayor of the city of West Lafayette, and today we are actually within the boundaries, within the city of West Lafayette, talking to David Meihls about ADA. You know, it's interesting that you should ask that because people often make the assumption that a city is nothing more than roads, highways, police, and fire. But when we talk about cities and Y2K plus 20 now, probably one of the biggest issues that mayors across the country face is accessibility. You know, a lot of cities have been around for centuries. And obviously, within the past 50 years, there's been so much progress with making cities accessible. But prior to that, it was a challenge, even for able-bodied people, to get from point A to point B safely. So for us, because we consider the city of West Lafayette to be relatively advanced, we know that we like to be proactive in solving problems. The ADA is nothing more than sort of a roadmap for us to continue to be progressive, to continue to make sure that our city is accessible. And that helps us in so many different ways. You talk about economic development. You talk about being a place of choice. You talk about having high quality of life. A bright line in every one of those concepts is accessibility. And the really good thing about West Lafayette is we have a population that's so enthusiastic about that too. You look at Purdue University, which is within our city limits. You look at the 47,000 students that attend class every day. You look at the 15,000 employees that work there every day. Not everybody hops out of a chair and can run to their next class. So there's a certain level of awareness that not only we as a city have, but also our university has it as well. And when you put that all in one hat, in one geographic footprint, it really makes us very attractive when you look at cities around not just the state of Indiana, but around the country. Oh my. It's almost like saying, how did the alphabet improve communication? We had a philosophy back in the old days that if you build it, they will come. And one of the things that we were short-sighted on is that building it didn't necessarily mean putting steps or putting narrow doors. But we did. We didn't know. And we had no guidance when it came to making sure that we were not only within compliance, but sort of that welcoming spirit of the city was being interpreted not just by able-bodied people, but those that are disabled. And David Meihls and his company volunteered at first to give us some particular guidance. We also, we had a citizen who was a quadriplegic. She had a debilitating disease and was wheelchair bound. And she would come to every public meeting and make us acutely aware of things that we were doing wrong, Jan Myers. And the funny thing is that as Jan became she had a progressive disease, and as she became a little bit, the disease was more aggressive, David Meihls and his company became our interpreter. And we knew that we would not start and complete full compliance with any given time period because it's like anything else, it's a moving target. But Dave and his company provided us the necessary guidance. They gave us the necessary steps. They gave us sort of an operational plan to know how to get things done. And more importantly, the training that was provided for our department heads really allowed for our department heads to understand we don't just work for those that can run to a meeting. We work for everybody that works within the city of West Lafayette and plays in the city of West Lafayette and obviously lives in the city of West Lafayette. And with that understanding, we not only started repairing what was wrong, but we now have a vision and a roadmap for the future to know how to do things and do them well and do them in compliance with the ADA standards. And as a mayor, obviously it makes us a much more welcoming place, but it also keeps me out of trouble. And there's one thing I don't like doing, and that's getting in trouble. It's absolutely essential. I think that every city within the country should have one because there's so many things that you can do as a misstep, and that costs money. And it's not our money, it's our taxpayers' money. When you start going down the wrong path, if you're doing things based upon what a contractor thinks needs to be done, that's your first mistake. Having an on-staff or an immediately available consultant allows for us to have that interpretation about how things can be done well and done right. For example, we are building a $33 million wellness center for the city of West Lafayette. A wellness center, the presumption is that only able-bodied people are going to go there. They're going to go there to swim, they're going to go there to lift weights, they're going to go there to play basketball. And that could not be further from the truth. It should be accessible for all. And by having an ADA consultant on staff They can look at the plans. They can be involved in the meetings. They can tell us where we're going wrong and where we're going right. And sure, that comes into the cost factor as well. When we look at how much money we're going to spend, it's a lot easier to put these costs in up front than to build a facility and have somebody say, oh, by the way, you blew it. You need to do this over again. So for us, it's great for, obviously, when you're looking at cost savings. It's great for us for making sure that we have the right type of information before we do something. And it's great for us to making sure that we're going to be accessible for all of our citizens. Cost, cost, cost. You know, I think a lot of cities look at things and they get their guidance from people that are able-bodied. I think a lot of cities have a different set of priorities altogether. And look at the makeup. Think of the largest city in the country, Los Angeles, New York, Cincinnati, whatever it is. They have been around for centuries. They have infrastructure that is rotting and falling apart. They have crime issues. They have overcrowding issues. They have housing issues. They've got sanitation issues. Name that tune. And I think when you look at the people that show up at meetings with their fist in the air, oftentimes ADA is not a consideration. Oftentimes, the most vocal opponents to what you're doing as a mayor or you're doing as a city leader comes from able-bodied people. And it's the type of situations that mayors and city leaders and community leaders have dealt with for decades, if not centuries. ADA as a concept is relatively new. You know, I had an uncle who had polio. And I'll never forget, this would have been in the early 60s. And he had some apparatus put in his car so he could drive his car around town. And it was interesting for me to see, but as soon as he got out of that car, there was nothing for him to do to access things easily. He eventually became wheelchair bound, but in the early 60s, he had the braces on his legs and he had 2 crutches. But the biggest challenge with braces on your legs is that you don't have the ability to raise your feet. He basically, went from side to side. And so I was his ADA. I would lift his leg up so he can get up on a step, hold him, lift up his other leg so he can get on a step. So, and Uncle Jim, he never complained. He never threatened to sue because that's the way it was. That's the way it was. Nowadays, if something like that were to occur, there would not only would the person being victimized by the ignorance challenge everything, but there would be people there saying, wait a second, I watched this guy. He couldn't even get up the steps to your store. So for us, I mean, we have gone from being primitive. We have gone from being disrespectful for all humanity to being in a position now where we must be. And it's just the right thing to do. Well, as it stands, David Meihls is our consultant. He's in-house almost daily. He's involved in the conversations about not only what we're going to build, but the planning process to build that. Before we do anything when it involves any kind of major, whether it be a parks, whether it be an athletic facility, whether it be a roadway, whether it be a structure, David's there to let us know what we must do. And he is in a position to change the direction of this city. And I think that's critically important because a lot of times, if without the appropriate guidance, a city can go down the wrong path. And remember, this is not our money. It's taxpayers' dollars. And to correct it, whether it be through direction of a compliance order, or whether it be through just the finding out that you've misstepped, is expensive. And redoing a structure, redoing a facility, no mayor wants to have to do that. So for us, it's just the more we know, the better we behave. We're one of the best cities in the state of Indiana, and we're proud to say so. But we're not that way just because, of a few things that we do right. We're there because we're open, we're welcoming, we take the appropriate guidance, we recognize that we don't know much about much, and we are eagerly pursuing those who can give us that proper guidance and that information to do the right thing for our community. Awareness, awareness, awareness. It used to be that only our disabled citizens were the ones that made us aware of things. And it was big issues then. They couldn't get upstairs. They couldn't go down slides. They couldn't access playground equipment with their grandkids. The sidewalks were in such bad disrepair or so narrow that they couldn't use them. Parking spaces weren't adequately marked. Having the guidance in front of all those issues has made us a better place to live. And it saves not only time, but it just makes your city a more welcoming place to be. There was this old adage back in the day where, government does government work. And thank God we've kind of got it out of that mandate. Government now does the people's work. And that's all people, able-bodied as well as disabled.
Tim Clark, Facilities Director and ADA Title VI Coordinator for the City of West Lafayette in West Lafayette, Indiana. ADA affects the City of West Lafayette in many different ways, and I could break this down into a lot of different categories, but it affects the City of West Lafayette because there are a lot of citizens, especially because we have Purdue University's campus here and 42,000 students, that we always have an influx of new students that are coming in, and we have to be cognizant about their disabilities and what can we do to make our city more accessible in the ways that these individuals that are coming to our town be able to get around the community and go to the places that we need for everybody to be able to go. Businesses, whether it be restaurants or retail stores, retail merchants, that they can get into the store and they can get through the stores and make this as accessible for them as possible. Oh wow, that is a very good question, and the answer to that is the city has improved greatly from when we brought ADA Consulting of Indiana on board in 2011. We have done numerous amounts of things to make the city accessible, from sidewalks to businesses to the city itself and the things that we do within the city and help citizens. And we started a group actually just recently in Tippecanoe County, which is called ACT, Accessibility Coalition of Tippecanoe, which we're trying to do things throughout the whole entire county, that we're doing everything the same, whether you're in Lafayette, West Lafayette, Dayton, Battleground, West Point, Shadeland, wherever you're at in the community, that everybody's doing the same thing to make this community, the county, as accessible all the way around, that we're all doing the same thing. So when somebody goes from one community to the other within the county, they're seeing the same things. So bringing ADA Consulting on board when we did has helped create so many programs and getting this whole entire, our community, first of all, West Lafayette, accessible in so many different ways. But whether it's website, following along with the website, or getting out in the community, going from one location to another with city bus, making everything as possible as we move forward, understanding what those disabilities are and helping those people within the community. Very simple. People, for some reason, have not understood or bought into the program, and we're not getting the information out to everybody like they need to. And when I say we as government entities are not getting the information out to the individuals that need to. Department of Justice is kind of pushing that back on the Department of Transportation, which is now pushing that back on the municipalities, which are starting to see that train moving forward at a much more rapid pace because of that. But initially, I would say it's because getting people to understand what it is, and it's a civil rights issue, and it's not a building code issue, especially when it comes to roads and buildings. So I would say that's the biggest reason, is getting people to buy into it and understand, first of all, understand what it is for them to buy into it. Second of all, is getting the push behind us from the entities that we needed to get the information out so people do what they need to do. One of the things that we've done to this point, and we're going to expand this even more, is with ADA Consulting of Indiana on board with us, with the city here in West Lafayette, and with our ACT group within the county, is reviewing plans when building permits are being purchased in the city. Part of our review process of their drawings, their building drawings, we're reviewing those plans to make sure not only the parking lot and the sidewalks accessible to the building, but everything within the building is being done as per ADA. Again, it's a civil rights thing. Architects and engineers are building buildings as per IBC, International Building Code. This is civil rights, is integrating those two entities to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for our citizens. It's impacted them in different ways, and I'm going to go back to our ACT group again, that we have in our program, that they fill out a complaint form, a grievance form, to show us actual businesses that are out there that they may not be able to access right now, and how can we help them? So giving the people within the community the ability to go to a group and fill out this grievance form and then follow the process of up to 180 days to get those grievances resolved with businesses. And it's been very accepted by the businesses within the community to turn around and do the things that need to be done, because they're realizing that these are clients that they may have not had before because their facility was not accessible.